In 1999, veteran journalist Sheila Coronel wrote that sometimes no rules are laid down, but there is an unspoken understanding that critical stories about the owners and their friends and allies will be toned down. Buried in the inside pages are not printed at all. So we asked journalists, more than 20 years later, does this statement still hold true today? Inside the Newsroom.
The desk has what is known as a gatekeeping function. The desk can prevent a story from being published or can have it rewritten, or the editors can decide that the story should not be published at all. Some stories may not be acceptable to the owners of the newspaper. Some stories may not comply with the editorial policies of the newspaper. Some stories may be libelous.
This is what is called political economy. It is the way power relations affect what information is produced and distributed to the public. In the case of media outlets, political economy involves media managers, such as media owners, business connections, producers, and editors, rather than the individual journalists themselves.
Kapag yung ownership ng isang media organization ay, let's say for example, ally ng ganitong president, meron siyang trickle-down effect from the owner to the editor-in-chief, to the editors, to the reporter. Nagkakaroon ng self-censorship or censorship na nga minsan eh.
An example of this was in 1999 when former President Joseph Estrada was caught in a number of plunder allegations, which was extensively covered by the media. He disliked the way the Philippine Daily Inquirer and the Manila Times reported about him. He then widely implicated an advertising boycott organized against the Inquirer, while the Gokongwei family who owned the Manila Times at the time were forced to sell their company to an Estrada crony.
Sa isang kumpanya, iiwanan ka nila kapag alam nila ang makakalaban mo ay yung bumubuhay sa kanila. Ang kumpanya ay nakadepende yan sa sino ang may kapangyarihan at sino ang mga advertisement nila. Ang number one advertisement ng mga kumpanya, remember this, gobyerno.
In 2003, the Probe Team, an investigative documentary program, was stopped from airing a lifestyle check story on former PAGCOR chairman Ephraim Genuino, who had discrepancies in his statement of assets and liabilities.
Imagine that Probe is doing a story critical of PAGCOR tapos kasama pa yung mga government officials. So mainit talaga.
This prompted Probe to part ways with the network and return to ABS-CBN. This goes to show how influential political power and media ownerships are in allowing or preventing stories critical of a company's allies to be published.
When your network tells you, do not air that, kinokontrol na yung kalayaan mo sa pamamahayag.
Alam naman natin na may ibang news organization, they have their own agenda, that their intention is different from the others. Ayun nga, doon ang pumapasok yung disinformation and disinformation.
During the time of former President Rodrigo Duterte, he enabled disinformation to spread. One of the news organizations involved was SMNI News, which is owned by televangelist Apollo Quiboloy, his spiritual advisor and close friend.
Nagkaroon ng incident recently when an organization complained to the Inquirer because we used the word left-wing. And the SMNI used that story to try to drive home the point na ito, sinabi na ng Inquirer na left-wing itong grupo na to. To them, it's like an admission on the part of the Inquirer na leftist itong grupong ito.
Many people think that just because you place the word news, it is already a news outlet. SMNI is not a news outlet. It is a propaganda arm.
We reached out to SMNI News for comment, but they were unable to reply. Regardless, they are far from the only media organization to have peddled propaganda in the form of news. And these outlets are only a smaller part of a much bigger network. So, where does the power of media truly reside?
It depends on the journalists. Will I be a defender of the truth or will I just go with the flow?
Media is an essential part of democracy, and syempre iba-ibang mga players sa media itself, may iba-iba silang agenda. I would say na yung power ng media, it comes from everyone.
Nasa kamay siya ng advertiser. Kapag ang advertiser ay nag-complain sa iyong sinulat, walang gagawin ang istasyon kundi i-delete yun because ang kapalit nun ay pera ng kumpanya.
It is mostly in the hands of media owners because the media owners can shape the way the news is reported.
In Rappler, what we are really proud of is the editorial independence. No one can control us. It is written within our DNA. Every shareholder, every investor will have to surrender editorial control to the journalists.
The power that we have is in the stories. It's the stories that can capture the public imagination. It's the stories that expose wrongdoing in government. It's the stories that speak truth to power, in the reports that make a difference in the lives of ordinary people.
Responsible journalism should provide people with information that they need, rather than what media outlets want. But because the media have authority over what news are received, it's up to them as to what goes on the news and what doesn't. While the way we consume news has drastically changed over the years, many of the same problems still persist. Media ownership and the politics of it all are only made worse with the shift to the digital era and spread of disinformation. Whatever the case may be, it's clear that there are many key factors at play and there still remains a lot to untangle.
You have, of course, media owners who are businessmen, and of course, they have their own interests. Part of self-preservation, you're not allowed to discuss or air or print issues na affecting the other businesses of that particular businessman. I mean, at the end of the day, news organizations are business.
Thanks for watching this episode of Inside the Newsroom. If you want to learn more about news production process and red tagging, we have more videos you can watch here on our website. Make sure to view our zine called Byline, a journalist's guide to red tagging coverage, which includes more information on topics such as media framing and agenda setting. You can learn more by exploring our website at framingred.com.